Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first Data in Brief webinar. Thank you for joining us. I'm Nikita, and I'm part of the Learning and Content Management team. I will be hosting the session for you today, and joining me are my colleagues, Anita, and from RS Support, Researcher Support team, we have Esther and Aritra. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. If you have any question at any time during the content of the session, please make sure to use the Q&A option to send your questions directly to us. We will try to answer as many as questions possible during the session today in the Q&A channel itself. If we cannot answer all the questions, we will reply to you directly after the session unless and until you post the question anonymously. We will also be covering some of the questions at the end of the session during our Q&A segment. For the best view, you may wish to drag the central bar on your screen to the right to enlarge the screen that I'm sharing. Our session is being recorded today, and you will be sent a link when the recording is ready. I hope that in the next 60 minutes or so, we can enhance your understanding of this topic. So let us now take a look at the agenda for the day. All right. So our session today aims to give you all the information you need to know about the data in brief. By the end of our time today, I hope that you will feel comfortable and confident about this topic. First, we will start by giving you an introduction on what is data in brief and its mission, and then we will walk you through what is data in brief article, what is data article, and as an author, what types of data articles you can present in depth. What is the difference between data article and a research article? And I will also take you through the editorial manager submission process, the preliminary steps with all the information on the publication timeline. And finally, we will also provide you some information on the publishing charges as well. So for now, I will be disabling my video feed to ensure that you have an uninterrupted webinar experience. All right, so now we are moving on to the first agenda of our session, which is to understand what is data in brief. So data in brief, as a definition, is a multidisciplinary open access peer-reviewed journal, which publishes short, digestible articles that describe and provide access to research data. It contributes to open science and improves reproducibility by making data and the associated research more discoverable, opening doors for collaboration and reducing duplication of effort. In short, data in brief focuses on articles that are easy to understand. So these articles help other scientists and researchers to find and use research data. This makes science more open and helps researchers work together better while avoiding doing the same work twice. So Data in Brief journal also welcomes a variety of article types. And here is the list of commonly used article types. The first one is data article. What exactly is data article? It is an article which is submitted by author directly through the Editorial Manager website. The second most commonly used article type is update article. So when a data set is previously described in a data in brief article, but it has been substantially expanded. And the last commonly used article type is perspective article, which contains a comprehensive review of current data sharing practices in the field, as well as summary of current research efforts and issues from a specific area of study. So I have just mentioned an overview of what the article types are, but I will take you through in detail as to how to submit these article types into DIB and how can we find the template in a couple of minutes. So with the grasp of the data in brief, what exactly it is and what article types are commonly used, let us delve into its mission. And the mission is completely aligned with the FAIR data principles, advocating for research data to be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. The core mission of Data in Brief is to facilitate the accessibility and usability of research data. So I'm just going to go through the 6 main missions of data in brief. It will give you a fair idea of how the submission system and the entire journal works as a whole. So the first mission is accessible, where they will make your data article immediately and freely accessible. The second one is discoverable. We will make your data article easy to find and download through Science Direct and major research indices as well. The third mission is citable, where we will help you drive the traffic to and from your data and the associated original research with linking and references. Comprehensible, this is all disciplines. Fifth one is reviewed. We will work with you to ensure quality publication with expert peer review. The last one is reproducible and reusable. We will help you to detail the experimental design, materials, and method used to collect or generate your research data so that the others can reproduce or reuse them. Now that we are aware of what exactly is data in brief and what is its mission, let us get into the details of the commonly used article types in data in brief. So the first one, as I mentioned, is data article. Data articles are the ones that describe research data that the authors have made publicly available through a repository. These articles ensure that raw data, which is often buried in supplementary material, is peer-reviewed, curated, formatted, indexed, and given a DOI, which is digital object identifier, and made publicly available upon publication. So the data articles are directly submitted through EM site, and I will take you through where you can find the template as well. The second commonly used article is update article, and update articles are published when a data set is previously described in data in brief, and this article has been substantially expanded. The peer review process of an update article focuses solely on the value of the newly added data set. To submit an update article, you will have to contact this email address to request for a template. This is the editorial office, dip-me@elsevier.com. My co-host will be pasting this email address as well in the chat section for you. So the next one is perspective article. A perspective article should contain a comprehensive review of current data, sharing practices in the field, as well as summary of current research efforts and issues from a specific area of study. You will have to contact the same email address with a short description of at least 500 words on the topic that you would like to write about and request the perspective template. The one main point to note here is that the templates for the update and perspective articles differ from that of a data article, and it is only available upon request from the editorial office via the email address that's mentioned here. And the other main important point that I would like to draw your attention is to an update in the journal pertaining to co-submission article type. So currently the journal does not entertain submissions of this article type. Rest assured, the relevant information regarding this will also be incorporated into the guide for authors for clarity and reference. Having gained an understanding of the various article types that's present in data in brief, let us now proceed to navigate to the Editorial Manager preliminary submission procedures. So I'm just taking you through Editorial Manager author main menu. All right, so this is how the main menu looks like. May I please request Anita to confirm if you're able to view the main menu screen clearly?
Yes, Nikita, all fine. Maybe if you could just increase the font size a little, it would be great.
Yes, got it.
Yeah.
Is okay?
Okay, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Anita. So as you all know, this is how the editorial manager main menu for an author looks like. Before we get into the submission process, just a little bit of basics that I would like to cover. This is an area where you can update your information. If in case you have any change in the institution or an affiliation, please make an update right here using update my information, which is available below your name. This will avoid having duplicate accounts for a single journal. And the other important point here is to make sure that you look into the instructions for authors, which is the guide for authors right here in the navigation bar below the about drop down. So before any submission, it is always recommended that you look into this document, because this keeps getting updated by the journal. So it is always better to have a double check on the guide for authors. From EM itself, you can consider taking the guide for authors link. The other main important point is related to the video guides and the support articles we have right here. If you have any kinds of questions while doing the submission, you can very well look into our video guides, support articles, and also we have the resources for the language editing services as well. So please make sure to look into all these support articles, which is there for your reference. So right now we will just go ahead and try to submit a manuscript. So once you're ready to begin the submission process for your paper, you can click on to submit new manuscript button. But right here, if you look into my account, I already have 4 incomplete submission. So when I click on to the submit new manuscript, all the incomplete submissions which I couldn't complete in the previous attempts will appear here. So the EM gives you a chance to make an update right here. Either we can select and continue or start a new manuscript. So in my case, I'm going to start a new manuscript and take you through the steps from the first. All right. So as soon as you click on to submit new manuscript, you will be taken into the article type selection. This is the first step. And in the drop down, you will have to choose whichever article type you are trying to submit. So if it is update and perspective, you need to have the template ready with you before submitting. And if it is a data article that you're trying to submit, you will get a template right here in the article type selection box itself. You can click onto the template and you can download it, look into the instructions and upload as per the requirement. One major point that you will have to note here is if your submissions have not been completed until the PDF steps, your paper will be removed after 90 days. This is the journal style that the paper will be removed after every 90 days if your submission is not completed. Please make sure you also look into the information that is in red highlighted here. This is again dynamic. All the journal specific instructions are also mentioned in GFA, and this is a double check for you to look into it before you submit your manuscript. So here at present, the information that's given is post-submission data article cannot be chosen, even if it is post-submission data article should be chosen as a data article only, and unless and otherwise you have been instructed by editors to do so. So now I'm going to go ahead and choose data article and take you through the preliminary process. So as soon as I click on to the data article, I get an option to link to ORCID record. And this is only a one-time step that you have to link to ORCID record. And if you're unsure of what it is, please make sure to click on to the hyperlink right here and proceed next. All right, so as soon as you click on to the next step, it takes you to attach files where you browse and get your manuscript, and the manuscript should be in the template form, whichever is there updated in the first step that we have seen. So as soon as you click onto the manuscript, you get the 3 mandatory item type that's required for the journal, which is cover letter, manuscript, and research data. So right now I have uploaded manuscript. It is here, right here, and I have a description manuscript. If you want to change the description, you can very well make a change here. Next, I'm going to take the cover letter, and I'm going to browse it from my system. You can either browse it or you can drag or drop the files, whichever is visible for you. So once you add the cover letter, the item type cover letter comes in, and the description, whatever you would want, that will also appear here. The next is, as soon as you add cover letter and manuscript, you have a tick option, which means the upload is successful in this step. Next is the research data. So I'm choosing the research data right here. So as soon as you click on to the research data, you have a description, and you also have a repository name through which you will have to choose a value. If in case you're unsure of what a repository name or if it is not listed right here, you can very well choose the option other right here, other repository, and find the list of the supported data repositories in author resources. The link for the author resources will be posted in the chat box. Please look into it. And this author resources also includes free to use multidisciplinary open Mendeley data repository. The next is source of the data, if it is an original data or the reference data. So you will have to mention if you're linking this to the original code or the original data reported in your research, or if you're linking this to the reference data, whichever is supporting your article. Any links to the data or the code will be published alongside your article. So please make sure you double check on it whenever you add a value here. And you can also find more about the data citation in author resources. And the next is you have an option to add the title. So the title character limit for the journal is 200. You can add the title for the data set up to 200 character limit. And the last one is the resource location. So here you will have to choose the web address either in HTTPS or SFTP, and click onto the correct address that you would want it to be navigated to the location. So I recommend you to do a double check on the location here, because this will also be looked into while the paper is being reviewed. And once you add the link, you can click onto the preview to double check on the same and then attach this information. So this is the preliminary step for the data articles. But for the other article types, you don't have research data as mandatory. So the mandatory item types differs for each article type, just as in other journals. So please make sure you look into all the details that's required. Just for the first glance, you can look into what are the important information mandatory that's required for the article type and make the attachments accordingly. Going forward, all the steps are same. You have a general information where you add all the details and the classifications of your paper. And then you have your review preferences. For the journal, you have at least a minimum of 3 reviewers you will have to suggest. You can just suggest any 3 reviewers. If in case you're unsure of whom to suggest, please take a look into the editorial board members of Data in Brief and make an alignment with the classifications that you are submitting the paper for, and suggest 3 reviewers you think will be the appropriate ones. And then we have additional information that speaks about the open access, and if all the authors are aware of this, are they the members of Data in Brief editorial board member? So all the details are given here, and we will talk a little bit more in detail on the publishing of open access. The Final step is comments. This is completely confidential. This will not be published. You will just have to write any kind of information that you want the publication office to know about. This will be visible only to the highest level of editor. So you can write any comments if this paper is being connected to any other conference or anything, any relevant information that will be useful for the review. And final is the manuscript data. So if you look into the progress of the submission, anything which is in red and stop, which means the details have not been filled, please make sure you click on to that and complete the PDF or build PDF step so that your paper will not be removed after 90 days. So this is one of the easiest way to check if your submission is correct as per the journal standards. So this is how you will submit the manuscript in data in brief. So now I'm taking you back to the presentation. All right. So we have looked through on what are the article types that's used in data in brief, and how do we submit, what are the informations that we require, and where can we find the template for the same. Next, I want to take you through on the article suitability for data in brief. So the journal welcomes submissions for all subject areas. Submissions regarding data from preliminary research, replication studies, proof of concept research, and negative results are also welcome. To merit publication in data in brief, data should be collected with a scientific method and have value to the research community. Please note that the data in brief will not accept submissions of data description that have already been published as a supplementary material in an original research article. So the link for what data are suitable for the data in brief will be posted in the chat section for you. Please click on to that for more details. And also make sure to check onto the guide for authors, which can be linked through the instructions for authors link, which I showed you right now in Editorial Manager in the navigation bar, which will also contain specific instructions for submitting your manuscript. So please make sure to check onto what data will be suitable for data in brief. Now that you know what is a data article and what is a research article, and now we are trying to understand how exactly is both the articles different from each other. So your research can be divided into two components. The first one is a data, which supports your research article, but is not published or copyrighted as a part of that research article. And the next is research article, which is an interpretation of the data. So basically, we are trying to understand what data article and research article and what is the difference between the both, in case you have an article in place, but you are unsure of which category will it belong to. So data articles support elements by offering a thorough description of the data, including quality control checks and base level analysis. A data article brings details to the forefront, making your data easy to find, cite, and reproduce. Whereas the research articles are focused on interpretations. Therefore, the details behind your data tend to get buried or lost in the supplementary materials itself. So we are now going to focus and understand a little bit more on the benefits of the data article publication in data in brief journal. So what are the benefits? The four main benefits are: it makes your paper discoverable, makes your data easier to find and download by including it in a repository linked to your article. It increases readership and also drives citations to the original research with cross-linking. It is a multidisciplinary. It reaches new audience, thereby opening doors for collaboration with a journal read by a broad global community of researchers. It's reproducible, it supports open science and reduces duplication of effort with short, digestible descriptions of your data, that it makes it easier to comprehend and reuse. And the last is definitely trustworthy. It earns the respect of your peers with data articles reviewed by experts, curated by dedicated section editors, and supported by international editorial board. So these are the four major benefits of data article publication in the journal Data in Brief. So I have taken you through the editorial manager preliminary submission process. So I'm just showing you the pictorial representation of how exactly the submission process will look, and you can anticipate on the publication timeline. So to submit the data in brief article, you will have to fill the template and follow the instruction that's provided in the template. Then you will have to submit any documents along with any computer codes used to analyze the data through the journal's online submission system, which we used in the research data step. The next is to visit our guide for authors and step-by-step video guide. If in case you're unsure of the instructions, please make sure to click onto it and keep a thorough check of whether any changes are there in the GFA for the article type that you're trying to submit. And step-by-step video guide will help you through the editorial manager submission process. And then we also have FAQ section in case you feel that the video guides are not helping or the guide for authors do not have the specific answer to your question. Please make sure to check the FAQ section. The link for the same will also be added to the chat section. Please bookmark it. The FAQ section is very detailed and it has to the point answers if in case you're looking for the short answers for your questions. And finally, you will submit your manuscript and the cover letter to the submission system, which is Editorial Manager. So this is how the publication timeline will look like, post which the paper will go to the editor and the review process will begin. Now we will move on to understand a little bit more on the article publishing charge. So as an open access journal with no subscription charges, a fee, which is an article publishing charge, APC, is payable by author or research funder to cover the costs associated with publication. This ensures that your article will be immediately and permanently be free to access by everyone. Next is Research for Life article publishing charge waiver and discount options. We automatically apply article publishing charge waivers or discounts to those articles in gold open access journals for which all authors based in the country are eligible for Research for Life program. You can find out more on the APC waiver and discount eligibility in the link that will be posted in the chat section. Please make sure to have a check on that. And then we have open access agreements. So Elsevier has reached open access agreements with an increasing number of institutions and university consortia around the world. Find out what it means for authors like you on our open access agreements page. For more information, please make sure to click onto the Data in Brief link that will be again posted in the chat section, which will have all the up-to-date information on open access. And before we move on to the final leg of the session, I would like to take you through few of the important takeaways. Please make sure that you adhere to the reporting standards that's mentioned on your screen right now. Authors of reports of original research should present an accurate account of the work performed, as well as an objective discussion of its significance. Underlying data should be represented accurately in the paper. A paper should contain sufficient detail and references to permit others to replicate the work. Fraudulent or knowingly inaccurate statements constitute to unethical behavior and are not acceptable. Review and professional publication articles should also be accurate and objective, and editorial opinion work should be clearly identified as such. Please ensure to look into the publishing ethics as well before you submit your manuscript. The link of the publishing ethics will also be pasted in the chat section. Now, all the useful resources and the links are added to the chat box for your easy reference. Please save it up, bookmark it so that it will be useful whenever you try to submit an article to Data in Brief journal. Thank you so much for giving an insight on what's happening in Q&A chat box. So that brings us to the end of our webinar today. Thank you so much for listening. And after the session, we will also be sending you an email which will contain all the helpful links that we have pasted in the chat box, and the webinar recordings as well as short video guides that relates directly to the topic. So please look out for that email. Again, a gentle reminder, if you haven't taken the poll, please make sure to answer to the poll so that it will help us to design such webinars in future. Thank you so much for joining us. I will keep the session open for the Q&A box to be completed, post which we will close the session. Thank you so much for joining. See you next time.
I think, Nikita, we are done with all the questions and we can go ahead and close the session.
Perfect. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, everyone. See you.